Following is a multimedia presentation that is a supplement to the Sustainable Country Living book. This topic of alternative energy pedal power dovetails with Chapter 11 in the book. In this presentation, we're going to take a look at ways you can generate electricity using your own muscles, be it with your legs in a pedal or with a hand crank. Here is a video of two products that demonstrate these two methods of making electricity.
I'm going to show you two of the most unique generators in the world that you've probably never seen before. Now I say that because these things are the kind of generator you use to generate power anywhere and at any time. But these are not the little devices you might remember as a kid. They really serve an actual purpose, and they might give you some power when you really need it the most. Our first generator is the smaller of the two. It's the K-Tor pocket socket, and it's designed for charging USB devices up to 1 amp. Now the first surprise is this is actually made in the USA. As soon as I unbox this, I could tell it's well made, and it weighs in at just under a pound. It's really compact, and this design is super clever. They've actually integrated a flip-out handle into the lever itself. And it's easy to use. You basically just spin the lever, and as you rotate it, you're going to crank electricity out of that USB port. There's a lot of cheap versions of these out there that are made in other countries, and they're nothing like this one at all. This can charge up an iPhone, an iPad, flashlights, even double and AAA rechargeable batteries. And if you want to take this on a trip, this cable is perfect because on one end is a regular USB plug, but there you've got USB-C, Apple Lightning, and then a micro USB. You plug in the device, put the other end in the USB port, and start cranking. But you don't want to go too fast. You're supposed to do it about 2 times per second, and that just feels like kind of a steady pace. Now your hand might get tired. Unfortunately, they included this strap in the box. It's simple, but it works. You just put it around your hand and the device. Now you don't have to grip it anymore. You just kind of balance it with your left hand and crank the handle with your right. Now in terms of how much power you're going to get out, that really depends on the type of device you have and how fast you're cranking within that couple of times a second. For my test, I connected it to my iPad, and I cranked it for just about a minute, and I gained 1% on the battery meter. Now that might not sound like a lot, but if you're in the middle of a crisis or you have no power and you're out in the middle of nowhere, this thing can be an absolute lifesaver. Now the pocket socket's good, but it still is small and it might not be big enough for what you need. So fortunately there's another option. And this is the biggest one they make. It's the K-Tor PowerBox 50. 50 means 50 watts, but it's also capable of putting about 3 amps of power out. That's a lot of power from something that you actually are cranking with your hands or your feet. And this model comes partially unassembled, but it's not hard to put together. You don't need any other tools. The only thing you need is an Allen wrench, and they actually include that in the box. The reason they break it down like this is because a lot of people might be packing this for a trip or shipping it somewhere else, but once you get it together, you don't really ever have to take it apart again. Together this looks more like a piece of exercise equipment, and in a way it kind of is because you're going to generate the power yourself, but pedaling this is a lot easier than you would think. Now this is much more of a universal style model because it doesn't have a USB plug, it actually has a cigarette style outlet. And with this you can really do anything. If you want to charge computer devices, you can just get a simple adapter, plug it in the outlet, and now you've got 2 USB plugs. And if you have kids, this can be a surprising thing for them to use. Kira just started pedaling. She had no problems at all. She wasn't even wearing shoes, which is not the right way to do it. But you can see that there's really not a lot of effort involved while you're pedaling it, but it's still better to get some exercise than none at all. This is just a 12-volt fan, and you can see the minute I start running those pedals, the fan turns on. And it is a regulated outlet, so even if your pedal speed changes a little bit, you are going to get pretty stable power coming out. But of course, the minute you stop pedaling, anything you're powering is going to stop. And because of the size of this unit, you can even charge up batteries. Now it's designed to do deep cycle type, but I only have my lawnmower battery and I wanted to put it to the test. Now when I measured the voltage coming off of the battery, I was getting about 11.85 volts. And hooking it up to charge your battery is really easy. You just plug in the cigarette plug, and on the other end you've got these 2 alligator clips, and they include this cable in the box. Now once you've got everything connected, you just need to find a place to put the unit down. But the way it's designed, it really doesn't do well on a real smooth surface. So what I found was you'll want to put down a piece of carpet, or in my case I had this rubber mat. And I started pedaling, and after 3 minutes I checked the voltage on the battery again, and it had gone up just about 1/10 of a volt. And while that isn't much, if you kept at it, you definitely could charge the battery up. And now I wanted to see if this pedal unit could actually charge one of these Jackeries. Now this is a 300 watt model, and I'm using the car charger, and I plugged it right into the pedal generator and started pedaling. And the input gauge showed me getting between about 20 and 40 watts, so this thing worked pretty well, and with enough time you could charge the Jackery up. So overall, I was really impressed with these. I love that they're made in the USA, the build quality's good, and while they're not for everyone, they're perfect for somebody that wants a reliable power source when there really are no other options.
Of a hand generator is made by a company called K-Tor. It's compact and lightweight. It has a USB port and an adapter cable that allows you to use USB-C, Apple Lightning, and micro USB. It also includes a hand strap to make it more easy to use. It would be ideal for an emergency life-saving situation where you might have a dead phone and you're backpacking and you need to be able to charge up your phone so you can call for help. The example of the foot generator is also by K-Tor. It's called the PowerBox 50, and that's because it can produce 50 watts, 3 amps. It has a cigarette-style output as compared to the hand crank, and so you can use an adapter to make it have other 12-volt kinds of outputs. It is regulated power, so no matter how fast you go, it's going to give consistent power out. It comes with a battery cable for charging batteries, and it can be used in an emergency. So here is an example of how a person could make their own bicycle-powered generator. Some of you may be handy and may be interested in ways to save money by building your own, and this video clip is a young man explaining that.
Today, I'm going to show you how to make one of these, a bike-powered generator.
There are many ways to make a bike-powered generator, but here's how I made mine. I used an old bike trainer, a car alternator, a deep cycle battery, some leftover Romex wire, and scrap 4x4. I started by removing the roller mechanism of the bike trainer that creates resistance while pedaling. We definitely don't want that. Then I replaced the mechanism with a 4x4. With a little hand carving, it fits perfectly in place. And I highly recommend hand carving because it's definitely good for you. Well, unless you hit your knee with the chisel, then it's probably not. Next, I plan to reuse the bolts from the roller mechanism to hold the 4x4 in place, so I marked and drilled out the holes and attached the 4x4 to the trainer. After that, I went to move my bike into place only to realize the 4x4 was a bit high, so I trimmed it down and got my bike to fit. With the bike in place, I was able to find the position the alternator needed to be at in order to make contact with the tire. A good thing about using an alternator is they tend to have brackets made to adjust the slack out of a belt already. So if you carve and arrange your 4x4 to accommodate these brackets, it ends up working very well in combination with the bike trainer. With the alternator's forward and back adjustment and the trainer's side-to-side adjustment, I had zero problems creating traction between the tire and the pulley. Although, I did find out rubber tires and metal pulleys don't get along, but more on that later.
That's exactly what we need.
So here's where I started to make some vital mistakes. I thought simply I could take my Romex wire apart, run one wire from the output of the alternator to the positive of the battery, and then run another wire to the negative of the battery. That was it.
Probably not the smartest way to do that, but it looks fun.
I thought I'd pedal, rotate the alternator, and generate power. That was until I hooked up a voltmeter and saw this. Only 12 volts on the readout coming from a 12-volt battery. Now, the alternator should put out 14 volts when I pedal, and if I'm pedaling and that dial ain't moving over 12, then I have a problem. So naturally, I went to YouTube and found a video about a bike generator. This video was from Leo W, and I will put a link in the description to this video for those interested. Now, what Leo's video made clear for me was that I had a bad alternator. After all, I had taken this from my dad's stockpile of random ones he accumulated over the years. So I went to his house and took the other 4, assuming at least one of them would work. Now, that's 5 alternators in total that were all bad. So I called my dad and asked to just steal one from his Rambler he had stored in my barn, because at the very least I knew that one would work. And that's just what we did. I hooked this one up as fast as I could to see if I could get power, and what do you know, it worked.
Come on, baby. Hey, it started going.
Now it was working, but strangely sometimes it wouldn't. So, referencing Leo's video again, I made a few changes. That included introducing a switch on the wire going from the alternator's power output to the positive on the battery. Also, upon further examination, I found 2 prongs that required being looped into the power output as well. So with the new switch and the wire attachment, I retested the generator.
Okay. No power? Power. No kicking on and off? It's working! Oh. That makes me want to cry.
Voila! It started charging the battery. Now that I knew things were working correctly, I used some electrical tape to attach the switch to the bike and then hooked up a power converter to turn our battery's energy storage into a usable outlet so we could, watch TV on the porch. Or make a protein shake by the pump track. Or watch some more TV in the woods.
Well, not anymore. Aren't you sick and tired of having your parents tell you to go pick up your mega cool ramps out in your yard? Not anymore.
Options are kind of endless here as far as I can tell, but there's quite a few limitations.
Handmade bicycle power generator. So this young man took an old exercise bike trainer and modified it and put on a car alternator, a deep cycle battery, some Romex wire, and a 4x4 piece of wood. And then he added a switch and a loop jumper to the generator and an inverter to convert from DC to AC 110 volts. Here's an example of prisoners in Arizona using pedal power to be able to watch television.
Want to watch TV? Better be prepared to move.
That's the message at an Arizona jail. Inmates who want to watch TV have to pedal for the privilege. Pedaling a stationary bike powers a television. The sheriff came up with the idea after noticing that half the inmate population's overweight.
That's a big problem facing our nation. And we're going to do the best we can in our jail system to help the inmates lose weight and at the same time give them the luxury of watching whatever they want to watch.
The program in jail is called Pedal Vision.
This video showed Sheriff Joe, who was nationally famous in Arizona. He was the county sheriff in Maricopa County, and he was famous because of his techniques of not letting prisoners just have a free ride. Not only did he promote this pedal-powered television program called Pedal Vision, he also was famous for having his male prisoners, inmates, living in tents, wearing pink jumpsuits. They grew their own food, they did all their own work, and that was in the heat of Arizona. I had the opportunity to meet this gentleman. He was quite an eccentric guy and pretty brave to try these innovative things. So this Pedal Vision program had pedaling to generate power, and if prisoners wanted to watch TV, they had to pedal to make the TV have the power. And in the process, his goal was for them to be able to lose weight. This video clip is another example of prisoners being used to generate electricity with pedal power. This one's in Brazil. And rather than it operating TVs, it charges up batteries to be able to provide lights in a dark street outside of the prison. In the process, the prisoners have the ability to shorten their sentence.
This might look like an ordinary exercise session, but for these prisoners in Brazil, working out isn't just a way to get fit. They're hoping to shorten their sentences. They're harnessing pedal power and turning it into real power. So, as they cycle, they generate energy which powers street lighting in the outside world. The project is part of a nationwide scheme which helps prisoners give something back to their communities. They cycle for 8 hours a day, and for every 3 days pedaling, they get a day knocked off their sentences. The energy they generate gets stored up in batteries, which are then attached to the street lights. The prisoners say they feel like they're making a difference. This street used to be dark and abandoned, but now the new lighting means people feel safe enough to walk there again.
So these Brazilian prisoners can pedal to generate electricity to charge batteries so that night lights outside of the prison can have lights. In the process, if they do 3 8-hour days, it'll result in 1 day being knocked off of their prison sentence. Northern Arizona University had a pedal power program. This program went through various reiterations, starting out fairly primitively and then grew into a pretty sophisticated final product. This bike generator you can see is a bike with a belt running a generator is the principle. This program, provided by Northern Arizona University, worked in conjunction with a couple of local schools to develop the program. So this tells the history. In 2011, a Flagstaff teacher was involved with this, and the university coordinated with K-12 schools, and they ended up, as you can see in the second paragraph, dovetailing with two partner schools, Flagstaff Junior Academy, a Seventh Adventist school, and Orm School, which was a charter school. And they built blenders and bike generators as projects in the schools. Here's some pictures of the students working on these projects. Then in 2011, it kind of expanded. They got a grant. They then developed a program called Wind for Schools. It was awarded another grant, and they ended up coordinating with other schools and high schools and fine-tuning the program. So here's a picture again of students working on these projects. You can see the student on the right is pedaling the bike. Ultimately, the Northern Arizona University's program became a curriculum available to schools, and they fine-tuned a PowerPoint presentation and a really nice-looking pedal bike and plans on how to do it. So here are the slides from the PowerPoint of building a bike. Here again, part of it was them developing and building the project rather than just buying it. So they needed a bike stand, a permanent magnet motor. It's interesting here, this wasn't a generator. This is a motor that was wired backwards. And so a motor and a generator are the same thing. It just depends which end of the electrical connections you use, whether it makes power or uses power to turn the motor. So in this case, they used a motor as a generator. And then they used a super strut, or called a unistrut. That's an electrical square tubing with holes in it that electricians use. If you go into a big store like Costco and you look up at the ceiling where the lights are hanging and stuff, you'll see this unistrut. It's very common for electrical industrial uses. And then they'd use a V-belt. This was a pretty big belt because it goes all the way around the wheel. And a 2.5-inch V-belt pulley that went on the generator motor, and then a shaft adapter to make it fit. Then it had miscellaneous connections, short extension cord, an optional watt meter, and a polarized power converter which connects the bike to the watt meter. Here's a picture of the motor. It's actually a motor for an electric scooter. And there's a picture of the unistrut being formed and cut to fit where it needed to be, and then they bolted it in. And this is the watt meter, which wasn't required, but it's optional. And here's them putting together the connections. And here, the unistrut, you can buy unistrut pieces at Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards, big box home improvement stores. And this piece in their hand is a unistrut optional piece that allows you to slide it in the unistrut and then put a bolt in to secure whatever you're fastening. Side note, I used unistrut and these bracket optional pieces when I built my rack for my solar panel. My solar panels are fastened to the rack with these little fittings, and the bolts went through the solar panels, and that fastened it to the unistrut, which was then mounted to the top of the rack that I built. And the rack I built, by the way, was made by parts also from a big box home improvement store. They were fence posts, chain link fence parts. So here again is a unistrut option piece. This is an L bracket. They have a number of brackets available for unistrut. And here they're using that to fasten the motor to the unistrut. And then they're doing some modifications to some of the pieces, and then a little bit more modifications, and then mounting everything together. And here you can see they've got the unistrut going from the cycle mounting bracket on the ground, which houses the generator motor. And then this big V-belt goes around the pulley on the motor and then around the tire on the wheel of the bike. And then they do some electrical connections and some more connections, and then they modify the 110 volt plug-in so that they can get generated power off of it. And here it is with everything hooked together. And then they come away with this final version of a very nice looking, professional looking bike. Has a few little modifications from what we saw of the homemade project for high school students. And this is called an Eco Pedaler. And 2012, students worked on this project and fine-tuned it. And the Eco Pedaler was installed at the engineering building in the Northern Arizona campus for a permanent display. So here you can see they've made it very nice. It's got a real classy design to it. It's got a covered battery enclosure so you don't get acid from the battery on your clothes. It's got a place for a display and phone chargers and stuff up between the handlebars. And it's a really nice looking unit. One thing I noticed different is the wheel on this doesn't look like a bicycle wheel, and it doesn't have any tire rubber. So I'm not positive where they got the wheel, whether it's off a wheelchair or what, but it looks quite classy. And then from an educational perspective, the goals are for them students to be able to see how to generate electricity and use electricity to accomplish something useful. And it teaches about power, energy, and electrical use. And then here's some more details about how the V-belt hooks onto the scooter motor. And this is some details about the diode and stunt resistor and battery. And display and monitoring up on the dash. You can see they made a nice clear plastic housing for that. It looks quite professional. So maybe you're not the kind of person that's handy in the garage and you want to pursue this, but you want to just buy something. I'll show you a couple of options here. This one here is the power generator unit that you'll see in the middle of the screen is $800. And then you can run one or two bikes to power it, and each of those bikes is $5,800. So it's not cheap, but it's a way that a person can do it. And if you are handy, there are sites on the internet like this one that show some ideas and some video clips of how to do your own. Now let's talk about things that you could purchase that if you're not wanting to bother with or don't have the skill set to make one of these. And I'm going to start with the least expensive of a hand cranking device. This one here is under $10. This is on Amazon, and it's a hand crank flashlight. And here is a video clip explaining how it works.
Requiring no batteries, this flashlight is always ready when you need it. Simply crank the clip ray for 60 seconds to generate 10 minutes of power. Charge your cell phone or devices in an emergency so that you have power when you need it to stay connected. Easily attaches to your backpack with the integrated clip. Eton, ready for adventure, prepared for anything.
Now here is the next level up. This is similar. It has a hand crank, but it also has a solar panel. And it not only is a flashlight and a charger, but it is a radio also. So in an emergency, you'd have the radio and the flashlight and be able to maintain the battery by either cranking it or set it out in the sun with the solar panel. And this again can charge your phone over a period of time. So here's a video clip of somebody explaining how that works.
This is my solar powered hand crank radio. Here is the solar panel. Hand crank is right here. There you are. Antenna, flashlight, a USB connection, and a C adapter. So you could potentially charge your phone on here if you need. This is one way that you can get communication the old-fashioned way. See if it works. Yep. And very good. Add this to your prepper collection.
Now this is another grade up. This is called Good AAA, Power Bank Wireless Charger. Now in this case, yes, it's a flashlight, but to my knowledge, it's not a radio. The purpose is for it to be able to charge. And so it has a big solar panel on it comparatively, has a hand crank. It also has multiple charging ports, cable ends for different devices, as well as a hands-free charging unit. And this video clip will explain that.
If you run out of power due to a major storm or power outage and you don't have one of these items, you need to get one now. This power bank is unique in a variety of different ways, and I want to show you the best features. Number one, it is powered solar panel. It has a solar panel over the big portion of its body, and so if you're in a true emergency and you can't power your power bank to be able to get the source of energy that it provides, then you can put it outside and it will charge itself. That's one of the best features. On the back, it has built in 4 different cords for iPhone, all different types of Androids, even has a micro for older devices. And another cool feature about this is that it does support wireless charging, so you don't even really need any cords. And for updated devices, you can just set it right on top of the power bank and it will charge your devices. Another thing is that it comes with a flashlight. So if I hold down the power button for a couple of seconds, it's a bright flashlight that you can see up to 100 feet away. There's a lot of things to love about this. It's also, it's 36,000 mAh. So this has a lot of power to be able to charge up your phone up to 7 times is what it's advertised for. It also is weather resistant. So if it rains or gets damaged or something, this will be okay. Honestly, I really like this device. It's not that heavy. It's still small enough to pack into a backpack to go camping with. This has a lot of usage, and you need one of these in case of an emergency at home or away.
Now this device is a 150 watt hand crank generator. It's $133, so we're kind of doubling in price every move we go here. And this device looks really quality, but it doesn't have a flashlight and a radio and probably doesn't even have solar. But it is a outdoor charging unit that looks real quality, if that's the primary purpose. And then here's one that's twice that money, $329. Looks again more powerful, 60 watt handheld crank generator, fast charger. My assumption here is that this one would charge your phone quicker than the others. If you have done like I did, I went to Costco some time ago and I bought an accessory charger for my iPhone. That's a fast charger. Your typical charging inverters are slow and it may take several hours to charge a phone. The fast charger charges my phone in about 20 minutes. And so my guess is that's what this does, is this will charge things quickly, but it's $329. That's quite a bit of money. Those were hand crank devices. Now we're going to look at pedal-powered generators that you could purchase. This one here is a pedal-powered generator, 350 watts, and it's $195. Looks like it's pretty good quality to my way of thinking. Should be for just under $200. And this one here includes the bike. This one here is a pedal-powered bicycle generator, emergency backup power system. Now, it's $1,500, so I assume it includes the bike. But from this one screenshot, I can't tell for sure. I would say if it includes the bike, it's probably a fair price. If it doesn't, it's way too expensive. So the question is it practical to have a bike to generate electricity? In this video clip, we're going to get an opinion by Adam Cole, who is an NPR radio host and an astrophysicist, getting together to explain how much power you can make with pedal power.
I'm here in Rochester, New York. This place used to be the bike capital of America. It even had a national magazine about bike paths. And it's the home of University of Rochester astrophysicist, blogger, and NPR contributor Adam Frank. He's going to help us figure things out. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam, how's it going? So the first question is, how much energy does my house use anyway? I mean, there's the lights, the air conditioner, the microwave, the dryer, the refrigerator, the water heater. And it all adds up to about 900 kilowatt hours every month.
So where does that energy come from?
Coal, burned at this Rochester power plant. And water that turns the turbines at this hydro station on the Genesee River. Could Adam here generate that energy instead? After all, before the Industrial Revolution, we all depended on the power of humans and animals. So let's get set up. Adam's legs turn the wheel. The wheel hooks up to the generator and turns that motion into electricity. And that electrical energy is stored in the battery so that I can use it later on even when Adam isn't pedaling. Now, if Adam's gonna power my house, just like that power plant, he's gonna need some fuel. This is the garbage plate, a Rochester delicacy. It contains about as much energy as a cup of gasoline, roughly 2 kilowatt hours. Unfortunately, Adam's not a very efficient machine. He can only convert about a quarter of the fuel he eats into energy. And some of that energy is just going to, keeping him alive. His lungs breathing, his heart beating, his digestive system digesting. With the energy that's left, an elite cyclist can generate about 0.4 kilowatts for an hour. But Adam, he's not an elite cyclist. And I need him to go for a lot longer than an hour. If he pedals for 8 hours a day, the best he's going to be able to maintain is about a quarter of what the elite cyclist can do. And that sums up to about 1 kilowatt hour per day. That would be enough to keep this lamp going, but remember, our whole system, it's inefficient. Some of that energy gets lost on its way through the generator, and some on the way from the generator down to the battery. So at the end of the day, there's only about a half of a kilowatt hour in the battery. If he pedals all day for a month, scarfing down 120 garbage plates, he'll store away a grand total of 16 kilowatt hours. The same amount of energy in half a gallon of gasoline.
Remind me, how much does your house need again?
900 kilowatt hours per month. It would take 50 Adams pedaling over time to power my house. And it would take the entire population of New York City to power every house and business in Rochester. And that, Bookie McReader Pants, is why you can't power your house with a bicycle.
So, can you power a house with bicycle power generator? How much power does a house use? This astrophysicist's house, which is a modest home, takes 900 kilowatt hours per month. A professional cyclist, he said, can generate under 1.2 kilowatts in an hour. A normal person could generate 1 kilowatt in a day. So the conclusion is, clearly you cannot power your house with a pedal bike.
Oh hey, did you know pedal power can generate about 60 watts of electricity per hour? That's enough energy to brew 3 cups of coffee. Not into coffee? You'd have to pedal for 24 minutes to blend your morning smoothie. Or 2 hours to charge your iPhone. Generating electricity using pedal power, it's exhausting.
We've now taken a look at different ways that you can use your muscles to generate electricity, from hand cranks to pedal power. And while it is not practical to be able to think a person can use a bicycle to generate enough electricity to be practical for your house, I think the takeaway here is it is worth considering purchasing some inexpensive emergency device that's hand crank, possibly solar powered as well, that would have a flashlight and, more importantly, a radio and a way to charge your portable devices. To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.